Have you ever looked at someone and thought, there's no way they're dangerous? That's exactly the mistake almost every one of Mona Kimura's opponents made. Standing at first glance, she doesn't look like the kind of fighter who strikes fear into experienced veterans. She has a youthful smile, a calm personality, and a petite frame that makes many people underestimate her before the opening bell. But the second the fight begins, that image completely disappears. Suddenly, the smiling young woman transforms into one of the most explosive strikers in Japanese kickboxing. Her kicks arrive from angles opponents never see coming. Her movement is impossible to predict, and by the time they realize they've made a terrible mistake, it's already too late. Fans around the world have started calling her the real-life Chun-Li, but those who've actually faced her probably have another name for her: their worst nightmare. Today, we're breaking down how Mona Kimura went from being underestimated because of her appearance to becoming one of the fastest rising stars in combat sports. Trust us, by the end of this video, you'll understand why nobody is laughing anymore. Before the knockouts, before the viral clips, and before millions of people started comparing her to a video game character, Mona Kimura was simply a little girl growing up in Japan with an obsession for martial arts. Born in 2001, she stepped onto the karate mats when she was only 4 years old. While most children were learning basic coordination, Mona was already developing extraordinary balance, discipline, and precision. Those early years would shape everything about the fighter she'd eventually become. Instead of relying on raw power, she learned how to generate speed, timing, and accuracy. Those skills became even sharper as she dominated junior karate tournaments across Japan, winning championship after championship while still a child. But Mona wasn't satisfied with mastering just one martial art. She wanted more. She added boxing to her training, and suddenly her dangerous kicks were backed up by crisp punches, fast footwork, and excellent ring awareness. By just 18 years old, she captured the Japanese Women's Boxing Championship in the featherweight division. Even before turning professional, people inside Japan's combat sports community knew they were watching someone special. What they didn't know was just how quickly she'd prove it. When Mona signed with Crush, many fans assumed she would need years to adjust. After all, countless karate champions have struggled to transition into professional kickboxing. Some never find their rhythm, others disappear after difficult debuts. That's why expectations were cautious when she stepped into the ring at Crush 167 against Ai Ogiwara. Ogiwara entered with more experience and plenty of confidence. Many believed she'd expose the weaknesses of an inexperienced prospect. For the first few moments, everything looked normal. Then Mona began moving. She controlled the distance with side kicks that seemed to appear out of nowhere. Every time Ogiwara tried stepping forward, she was met by another perfectly timed strike. The confidence that had been visible before the opening bell quickly faded. Then came the moment that changed everything. Mona exploded forward with a perfectly timed punch that sent Ogiwara crashing to the canvas. The arena erupted. Even after getting back to her feet, Ogiwara looked completely overwhelmed. Less than 2 minutes into her professional debut, Mona Kimura had announced herself in spectacular fashion with a first-round knockout. Suddenly, nobody was talking about whether she belonged in professional kickboxing anymore. They were asking how far she could go. A dominant debut often creates excitement, but skeptics usually dismiss it as beginner's luck. That's why Mona's second fight carried even more pressure. Standing across from her was veteran fighter Yuka, someone known throughout Japan for toughness and experience. Many believed this would finally be the fight that slowed the young prospect down. Experience, after all, often beats raw talent. At least that's what people expected. The opening bell rang, and Mona immediately showed she'd learned from her debut. Instead of rushing forward looking for another quick finish, she put on a masterclass in distance control. Side kicks slammed into Yuka's body. Sharp kicks snapped toward the head. Every time the veteran tried to close the distance, Mona smoothly transitioned into clean boxing combinations that stopped the attack before it could even begin. It wasn't just striking, it was complete control. By the end of the first round, Yuka's face already showed the effects of Mona's relentless pressure. She tried adjusting her strategy, pressing harder in the later rounds, but Mona simply adapted. Whenever Yuka got inside kicking range, Mona welcomed her with fast combinations that reminded everyone she wasn't just a karate specialist. She was also a national boxing champion. After 3 rounds, the judges had no difficult decision to make. Mona improved to 2-0, and fans realized this wasn't hype anymore. This was a genuine contender emerging before their eyes. By the time her third professional fight arrived, something remarkable had happened. Fans had already started calling her the real-life Chun-Li. It wasn't just because of the kicks. It was because of how unusual they looked. Mona attacked from angles that almost seemed impossible. She balanced effortlessly on one leg while firing side kicks like a machine, constantly disrupting her opponent's rhythm. But her next opponent wasn't intimidated by internet nicknames. Veteran Satoko Ozawa had spent years competing against experienced fighters across Japan. At 41 years old, she believed experience would overcome youth. Early in the fight, Ozawa actually had some success slowing Mona's rhythm with a disciplined defensive approach. For a brief moment, it looked like the veteran's strategy might work. Then Mona adjusted. She began mixing her side kicks with crisp straight punches and devastating hooks. Every attack came from a different angle. Every exchange favored the younger fighter. By the end of the opening round, Ozawa's face was bruised, swollen, and bleeding. The second round became even more brutal. Mona increased the pace, attacking the body before instantly switching upstairs with punches and kicks that repeatedly broke through the veteran's guard. Eventually, the damage became impossible to ignore. After another exchange reopened a nasty cut, the ringside doctor stepped in and stopped the contest. Another victory, another statement, another reminder that Mona wasn't simply beating opponents, she was breaking them down. Then came the fight many believed would finally expose her weaknesses. South Korean champion Choi Eun-gi represented Mona's toughest challenge yet. Unlike previous opponents, Choi had carefully studied Kimura's style. She understood the side kicks, anticipated the movement, and entered the fight with a clear game plan to cut off Mona's angles. On paper, it looked like exactly the type of strategy that could neutralize the young star. But combat sports rarely go according to paper. From the opening seconds, Mona refused to give Choi the same look twice. She constantly switched rhythm, bounced in and out of range, and launched side kicks from positions that seemed impossible to predict. Every time Choi adjusted her defense, Mona adjusted right back. The movement became almost hypnotic. Her balance allowed her to attack while staying just out of danger. Whenever Choi finally managed to step into range, sharp boxing combinations greeted her before she could launch an offense of her own. By the third round, frustration had completely taken over. The South Korean champion simply couldn't solve the puzzle standing in front of her. After 3 rounds of technical brilliance, Mona earned a unanimous decision victory, improving her record to 4-0, while proving she could dominate not only through power, but also through elite fight IQ. So what exactly makes Mona Kimura so difficult to beat? The obvious answer is her kicks, but the truth goes much deeper than that. Her side kicks aren't simply attacks, they're weapons that control the entire fight. They keep opponents at the perfect distance, interrupt combinations before they begin, and constantly force fighters to reset. But that's only half the story. The moment an opponent becomes too focused on defending the kicks, Mona switches seamlessly into boxing combinations that punish every opening. Add her incredible footwork, unpredictable rhythm, and years of karate experience, and you get a fighter unlike anyone else in women's kickboxing today. She doesn't just attack. She solves problems in real time. Every adjustment her opponent makes is answered almost instantly. That's the mark of someone with exceptional fight intelligence. Perhaps the biggest lesson from Mona Kimura's journey has nothing to do with kicks, knockouts, or championships. It's about first impressions. Throughout her career, people underestimated her because of how she looked. They saw a young woman with a friendly smile and assumed she couldn't possibly be dangerous. Those assumptions disappeared one fight at a time. Today, the same people who once questioned whether she belonged in professional kickboxing are wondering how long it will be before she competes for major championships. Her rise has been incredibly fast, but more importantly, it has been earned through skill, discipline, and relentless improvement. She isn't becoming famous because of social media alone. She's becoming famous because every time she steps into the ring, she gives fans another reason to believe they're watching the future of Japanese kickboxing. The scary part? Mona Kimura is still improving. She's only a few fights into her professional career, yet she's already defeating veterans, handling champions, and developing a style that very few fighters seem capable of solving. If she continues progressing at this pace, championship opportunities won't be far away. And if that happens, the nickname, real-life Chun-Li, might become more than just a fun comparison. It could become the identity of one of the biggest stars in women's combat sports. So what do you think? Is Mona Kimura already one of the most exciting young fighters in kickboxing? Or is her best still yet to come? Could she become the next K1 superstar? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to Mona Kimura Ringside, and turn on notifications for more fight breakdowns, rising stars, and the biggest stories from the world of combat sports. Until next time, thanks for watching.